Bloomberg, Elon Musk, Icon, whoever the hell that is, and Soros pay a tiny fraction of wealth and income taxes, a report reveals, and this is by CNBC. So it gets right into the story. So some of the world's richest men, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Carl Icahn, and Michael Bloomberg and George Soros pay just a tiny fraction of their increasing wealth in taxes, and in some cases pay no taxes in a given year, according to a report Tuesday. So ProPublica, citing confidential IRS data it obtained on thousands of wealthy people, which, by the way, I think that's actually illegal, reported that the 25 richest Americans saw their worth rise a collective $401 billion from 2014 to 2018. But those people paid a total of just $13.6 billion in federal income taxes for those 5 years, which amounts to a true tax rate of only 3.4%, the article noted. Now, before we continue, right, you also got to understand, their worth increased by a drastic amount, but you got to understand that most of these people end up, creating companies or businesses where they own a portion of stock, right, of that company. So that stock is typically increases in massive value, right? So even though technically speaking, they might be worth, these billions and billions of dollars, it doesn't actually mean that they have access to that amount of money, right? Because typically speaking, in these massive corporations, a lot of these guys are legally not allowed to sell a certain percentage of their stocks in a given year, right? So even though they might be worth, let's just say $10 billion, right, as an example, they might actually only be able to legally sell maybe $500 million per year, or maybe $100 million worth of stock per year. They're actually only allowed to do certain things because of the SEC, right? So you got to keep that in mind. So even though, all these people might increase their worth a certain extent because of the companies that they made, that doesn't necessarily mean that they actually have access to that money. And in some cases, let's put it this way, right? You could technically speaking probably get paid in stock options without actually having a actual income from the company, right? So your tax rate would be super low if you're only getting paid in stock and not actual money, right? So I believe, there was a story years ago where Zuckerberg only had an income of $10 or something, but he was getting millions and millions of dollars worth of stock. So that's something to think about. So in contrast, the median U.S. household in recent years earned around $70,000 annually and paid 14% of that in federal taxes. Couples in the highest income tax rate bracket paid a rate of 37% on earnings higher than $628,300, the report said. So ProPublica pointed out that billionaires, unlike most other people whose earnings come from conventional wage income, often benefit from tax avoidance strategies beyond the reach of ordinary people, and their wealth is often largely based on the rising value of stock and real estate that is not considered taxable unless those assets are sold, the report noted. ProPublica did not disclose how it obtained the tax information cited in the article, but did say that the outlet went to considerable lengths to confirm that the information sent to us is accurate. CNBC has not independently verified the information, blah, 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 blah. So the article said that according to ProPublica's calculations, Buffett, Warren Buffett's true tax rate was just 0.1%, or $23.7 million in taxes he paid on wealth growth of $24.3 billion during the 5-year time frame. During that period, Buffett, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, reported legally taxable income of $125 million. Bezos, who as founder of Amazon has become the world's richest person, paid slightly less than 1% in ProPublica's true tax rate, or $973 million, on wealth growth of $99 billion during the 5-year period. And Bezos' actual taxable income during that time was $4.22 billion, the report said. In 2007, Bezos did not pay a penny in federal income taxes, and he also avoided any federal income tax liability in 2011, the article said. And the world's second richest person, Tesla CEO Elon Musk, paid a 3.27% true tax rate, or $455 million on wealth growth of $13.9 billion, ProPublica said. Musk, who had an actual taxable income of $1.52 billion during the 5-year period, paid no federal income taxes in 2018, according to ProPublica. Bloomberg, former New York City mayor and founder of Bloomberg LP, paid a 1.3% true tax rate, or $292 million, during the time period looked at by ProPublica. His actual taxable income was $10 billion, the report said. And Soros, an investor, paid no federal income taxes between 2016 and 2018, which was a result of him losing money on his investments, his spokesman told ProPublica. Icahn, another investor, paid no federal income tax in 2016 and 2017, years in which his total adjusted gross income was $544 million. The article said. And Icahn told ProPublica that he registered tax losses in both of those years as a result of taking deductions worth hundreds of millions of dollars due to the interest he paid on loans. Asked whether it was appropriate that he paid no income tax in certain years, Icahn said he was perplexed by the question, ProPublica reported. There's a reason it's called income tax, Icahn was quoted as saying in the article. The reason is, if you're a poor person, a rich person, if you're Apple, you have no income. You don't pay taxes. He added, do you think a rich person should pay taxes no matter what? I don't think it's germane. How can you ask me that question? White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki on Tuesday was asked about the leak of tax information to ProPublica. Any unauthorized disclosure of confidential government information by a person with access is illegal, and we take this very seriously, Psaki told reporters at a news conference. The IRS commissioner said today that they are taking all appropriate measures, including referring the matter to investigators in Treasury, and the IRS are referring the matter to the Office of the Inspector General and the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, all of whom independent authority to investigate. So obviously we take it very seriously, she added. Psaki also said that she would not comment on the specific data in the article, but also said, broadly speaking, we know that there is more to be done to ensure that corporations and individuals at the highest income are paying more of their fair share. Now again, this is a little bit misleading no matter how you look at it, because let's go back to what Icahn said, because he makes it actually a very good point, right? So when he was asked whether it was appropriate, right, that he paid no income tax in certain years, Icahn said he was perplexed by the question, right? Because look, this specific thing summarizes everything, right, that you need to understand, right? There is a reason it's called income tax. The reason is, if you're a poor person, a rich person, or Apple, if you have no income, you don't pay taxes. And this is something that, technically speaking, any single person in America can actually do. Like, it doesn't matter what your income level actually is. Technically speaking, based off the tax law, and I'm not a tax advisor, but based on the law, you could pretty much, on paper, show that you are in debt and paying debt more than what you actually make. And you could technically, on paper, show that you're losing money, even though technically speaking, you're not really losing money. So an example of this is basically, let's say that you make like $1 million in a year, right? Like that's actually how much you make per year. Well, what you could end up doing is basically get loans out that equal $1 million, right? Or very close to it. So that you could basically get, like a mortgage of, $1 million, or, like a mortgage in a car loan, right? For a very expensive car, right? Because you don't pay money off of loans. And sometimes a lot of rich people end up basically putting all their money into basically some sort of asset and then take loans out on the asset, because the loans on their assets, they don't got to pay taxes on, right? So for example, they might have like $1 million worth of stock, but if they take loans out on that $1 million of stock that they own, they don't actually got to pay taxes on them basically giving themselves $1 million, right? Because it's a loan. And so it gets pretty complicated, but any single person in the United States can technically show that they're making no money and not pay any taxes. So again, this is a very misleading kind of situation, because a lot of these guys are basically doing everything that any single individual can actually go and do, right? Not to mention, some of these guys probably don't actually get paid an income, right? Because if you end up just getting stock, that is basically considered something different than just getting income, right? It's not viewed the same, right? So let's say that, you get paid like a salary of like $100,000, right? That's going to be viewed completely different than if you were also to get paid $100,000 of stock options, right? Like, that's completely different in, the way that is viewed in, the tax legal system, right? So that's something that you got to really understand about all these like situations when it comes to, why do these people not really pay any taxes? It's because what they're doing is basically kind of showing that they don't really have income, right? A lot of these guys don't really have income. So it's just something to really think about. And this is why also companies can also do this too. Like a company technically like Apple could, make like $1 billion per year. But if they invest $1 billion by buying other companies, well, that's an expense of the company. And since they're viewed as like companies are technically viewed as like individuals, they have rights, which also shows that, basically they're not making an income, right? Because if you spend all the money, you have no income, right? So it's just another way to really think about it. Now, I do not recommend anyone to actually go and do this or do what they're doing, because one, is super complicated to actually get this stuff done, even though technically everyone can do it. And then two, like, this is just going to cause you a massive amount of stress, right? Like, it's just going to be a massive amount of stress. So if you want to learn how to master your money, go down below in the description of this episode, because my lord, this is totally not worth the hassle. By the way, it's probably very illegal how they got this information,